What's up, you guys? Josh Tongol here. Today, I want to talk about another manifesting technique taught by Neville Goddard that was actually revealed to him, believe it or not, through a vision. He said the revelation was so powerful that he couldn't keep it to himself, but was willing to share it with anyone who'd listen. And folks, I'm here to do the same. I want to share it with you all, and it's called the I Remember When technique. I Remember When technique, which has to do with memory and motion. And it's so dope, dude, because once you understand how this rarely talked about method works, then by the end of this, you'll learn how to instantly shift to a different state and be encouraged to go way beyond what your reason and your senses dictate. You know what I'm saying? And you can learn more about this from Neville's 1968 lecture called I Remember When. You see, the problem is that a lot of people tend to limit their power of belief to what they see with their physical eyes, using their, memory against themselves, not realizing that the choices and its limitations are entirely up to them. Neville talks about a time when he had a vision where he received what he considered to be a great revelation concerning our creative power. And in this vision, he found himself in what he refers to as in spirit inside a stately mansion in this palatial home in New York City, saying it was a kind of home that the great financial giants lived in at the turn of the century. And being fully awake and aware during this experience, there were 3 generations that were present. One was invisible, who dominated the entire household, and 2 visible generations who were discussing the invisible one, whom they referred to as grandfather, and the system that he had. And there was a son speaking to his children about how their grandfather would stand on an empty lot and say, I remember when this was an empty lot. And then he'd paint a word picture of his desire for that lot so vividly that those who heard him could see it completed right before their eyes. And it was that concept of life that made the grandfather a fortune that the 2 generations were able to enjoy. But the thing is, they didn't know the grandfather's secret. They only told it as a story. The vision ended, Neville woke up, and the whole thing was so vividly impressed on his mind that he recorded the experience and went back to sleep. And get this, he then redreamed the dream. But check this out. This time, he was a grandfather. And he said to those who were present there, I remember when this was an empty lot. And then he pictured the building placed there so vividly that the stones actually began molding themselves in the form he envisioned. Now, let me break this down for you. In the first vision, Neville says, he heard memory. But in the second vision, he experienced it, right? He was a grandfather. He was the one who stood on a vacant lot and remembered. And as he did that, a structure took form. And through this experience, through this vision of I remember when, he says, it was affirmed and made a principle for all to prove and to try. All right, so how does this work as a technique? Think about this. If you can remember something, what does that imply? It's simple. It implies that you're no longer in it, right? There's a frame of reference. There's movement. I remember when, because now you're aware of your new state as a present objective fact. For example, let's say you're jobless, you're out of work. Then take you being unemployed as a fixed reference point, okay? So today you're unemployed. Then in your mind's eye, you're like, I remember when I was unemployed, which implies what? That you're no longer unemployed now. Or you can say, I remember when I didn't make $50,000 a year. If I say I remember when I didn't make $50,000 a year, I'm implying what? That I'm making in excess of $50,000 now. And if I want to push it up, I can say I remember when I didn't make 6 figures, which implies my income is in excess of 6 figures. Is this making sense? I remember when I couldn't afford rent, but I can now. In other words, you're in a state that you don't like. Then you move inwardly by claiming, I remember when I was in a state I didn't like. It's a secret of motion. I remember when such and such was a problem, fill in the blank. You feel it as though it were in the past, and then you imagine the solution. But feeling is the key. People tend to forget that. It's not about saying a bunch of empty words, you guys. What does it feel like for that problem or situation? It doesn't have to be negative to be a distant memory. Remember, all states are eternal and they exist now. And since we live and move in different states, here's what's powerful. With this method, you can put yourself into any state by remembering when, because it'll help you shift your attention to and place your awareness on that which you want to be, your fulfilled desire. Which is why we got to be careful with how we use this, because Neville also talks about how this principle isn't only used in a constructive way, but in a destructive way as well. Like, I remember when I didn't have all this debt. What does that imply? That you have all this debt now. It gives life to it. Or I remember when I was happy, which implies that you're not happy now. So yeah, you're using the technique, but you're using it in a way that'll screw you over and bring unwanted things into your life. That's why you gotta be careful when you constantly talk about the good old days where you feel like they're long gone, because it'll be just that from now on. The good old days, nothing to look forward to anymore. So you can see this can be applied towards anything in life. You know what I'm saying? You could even do this for other people and say, I remember when my friend had nothing, and now she's living in abundance. You can remember when your friend was sick by imagining him healthy. You can remember when your daughter was single by imagining her married. There are no limits to this, you guys, for real. You have the power to remember when. Now, how it'll come about, who knows? But don't even trip, dude. Don't worry about it. Seriously, here's the thing. Neville reminds us that if you'll remain faithful to your new awareness, to your desired state, it will crystallize. Straight up. All right, real talk now. There are some of you listening who are going through a really tough time at the moment, whether it's physical, emotional, financial, or whatever. 2019 just ended, and you're disappointed because things still aren't the way you want them to be. And you see, Neville doesn't promise that everything's always going to be easy, you guys. Nah, dude, horrible things happen. But even though he ain't promising you a problem-free life, he does say that this law will cushion the blows of life. You know what I'm saying? It can make things easier for you, so why not use it? But know that you ultimately make the decision, folks. Nobody else on how you respond to your current situation. You are responsible for how your life turns out. Look, if you don't control reality by controlling the pattern of your thoughts, then guess what? Reality will control you, plain and simple. So put this to the test, you guys, for real. Try it. Put yourself in an I remember when mood and trust your memory and give that mood all the sensory vividness of reality as though it were true. And just watch. Just watch. Impossibilities will dissolve and the inevitable will happen, where you'll find yourself moving across a series of events which will lead you to the fulfillment of your desired state. You'll resurrect it, Neville says, and objectify it on the screen of space, and then the world will call it real, because you get what you believe. Yeah. Alrighty, guys, hope you enjoyed this. And if so, please do me a favor, like and share this. If you're listening via podcast, I'd really appreciate a review, because it'll get more people to discover my work and, of course, encourage them as well. And I'd love to hear your thoughts or experiences in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button and the bell right next to it to be notified of my next video. I pump these out every single week, so you don't want to miss them. And don't forget to register for my free online training where I teach you how to shift your reality so you can manifest the life you really want right now. So check it out. The link's in the description. Like I always say, more's coming. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.